Her uncertainty met his patience. "We have all night," said the Lakota. She stepped off the bus, her bag hanging lightly over her shoulder, but inside she felt heavy with doubt. The town was small, the streets quiet, and the late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the pavement. Everything around her seemed calm, almost too calm, as if the world had stopped to wait for her decision. She pulled her jacket tighter, not because she was cold, but because she needed a shield against the feelings that always crept up when she was alone with her thoughts: fear, hesitation, and uncertainty. She had learned to carry them quietly, like stones in her pocket, knowing that if anyone saw them, they might judge her for being too slow, too careful, too unsure. As she walked toward the small cafe at the corner, she noticed him for the first time. He was sitting outside, his back straight, hands resting calmly on the table. He didn't look at her at first. He was looking at the trees lining the street, at the sky that was slowly turning pink with sunset. There was something about the way he sat, calm, patient, steady, that made her pause. Something told her that he was not like the people she had met before, people who rushed, who judged, who demanded answers before they were ready to hear them. She hesitated at the edge of the sidewalk, unsure if she should enter. Her mind began to race. What if he is strange? What if I cannot connect with him? What if I make a mistake? These thoughts spun like a storm, and she could feel the familiar knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. And yet, there was curiosity too, a quiet voice telling her that maybe this time things could be different. He finally looked up. His eyes were calm, warm, and patient. He didn't smile in a way that demanded a return. He smiled in a way that simply said, "It's okay." "Take your time." She felt her chest loosen a little, as if someone had quietly lifted a weight she hadn't realized she was carrying. She moved inside the cafe, her steps hesitant. She took a seat by the window, close enough to see him clearly, far enough to feel safe. The cafe was small, filled with the scent of freshly brewed coffee and baked bread. The gentle hum of conversation surrounded her, but her attention stayed on him. He had not yet approached, and that was fine. There was no pressure, no rush. It felt as though the entire world had slowed down just to allow this moment to happen naturally. Minutes passed. She looked out the window at the people walking by, the children laughing on the sidewalk, the old man feeding pigeons near the fountain. Her mind wandered to the past, to the mistakes she had made, the people she had trusted too quickly, and the times she had been too cautious. She realized that she had spent much of her life either rushing forward or holding back, never finding a middle path. And now, in this quiet cafe, she wondered if this moment, this chance encounter, could be the start of something different. He finally stood and walked toward her. He moved with calm assurance, but there was no hurry in his steps. When he reached her table, he nodded politely, not as a greeting that required immediate response, but as a simple acknowledgement of her presence. She returned the nod, her heart beating faster, unsure why such a small gesture could make her feel both nervous and safe at the same time. "Mind if I sit?" he asked softly, his voice steady and calm. It was not demanding. It did not force her to answer immediately. She shook her head slightly and he took the chair across from her. For a few minutes, they sat in silence. She wondered if she should speak first, if she should explain who she was, why she was here, what she wanted, but the words felt heavy in her throat, as if they had been trapped there for years, waiting for someone patient enough to let them out slowly. He seemed to understand without needing explanation. He didn't push. He didn't ask questions. He simply waited, letting the silence stretch comfortably between them. Finally, she found the courage to speak. I don't usually do this," she said, her voice soft. "I don't usually sit and talk to strangers." "That's okay," he replied. "Neither do I most of the time, but sometimes moments like this, they ask for patience." She looked at him, intrigued by his words. There was no judgment in his tone, only an understanding that made her feel lighter, as if she could finally breathe. "Patience?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes," he said. Patience, not just waiting, but listening. Not just hearing, but understanding. Life gives us too many moments where we rush, where we try to fix everything at once. Sometimes it's better to simply be present, to let things unfold naturally. She nodded slowly, feeling a spark of hope she hadn't felt in a long time. There was something rare about his presence, something that reminded her of the stories her grandmother used to tell about quiet strength, about the way the Lakota people valued listening, understanding, and calmness. She had always admired those stories, but she had never imagined experiencing them firsthand. As they began to talk, the conversation was slow, almost hesitant at first. She spoke about small things, her favorite books, the street she liked to walk in, the music that made her feel alive. He listened, not interrupting, not judging, but adding small observations, gentle questions, and moments of quiet laughter that felt like sunshine on a cloudy day. She realized that this was different from any other conversation she had ever had. There was no need to impress him, no need to hide her fears, no need to rush towards something that might not exist. Time passed, though neither noticed. The sunlight shifted, casting golden hues across the room. Outside, the world moved as it always did, but inside there was a bubble of calm, a rare moment where uncertainty and patience met, creating a space where trust could begin to grow. She found herself relaxing, letting go of the tight grip she had on her own fears. She began to speak more freely, sharing thoughts she had kept hidden, doubts she had buried, and dreams she had almost given up on. He listened, nodding gently, sometimes offering a word of encouragement, sometimes simply remaining silent, letting her thoughts unfold without interruption. By the time the evening came, she felt a strange sense of peace. It wasn't certainty, not yet, but it was enough. Enough to know that here, in this quiet corner, someone was willing to meet her where she was, not where she thought she should be. Someone who understood that true connection takes time, patience, and respect for the other person's pace. When they finally left the cafe, walking side by side toward the quiet streets, she realized that for the first time in a long while, uncertainty didn't feel heavy. It felt manageable. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing. For the first time, she had met someone who understood that sometimes the most important thing is not to rush, but to be patient. And he, walking beside her, didn't need to say anything more. His patience was enough. His presence was enough. Sometimes that was all that mattered. Two people quietly sharing the same path, letting the world move around them, while they moved together, slowly, carefully, and without fear. The next morning she woke to the sound of birds chirping outside her window. The sunlight spilled softly across her room, and for a moment she just lay there, thinking about yesterday. She remembered his calm voice, the way he had listened without judgment, and the way he had let silence be comfortable rather than awkward. A part of her wanted to reach out to him immediately, to continue the conversation, but another part, her old self, cautious and uncertain, hesitated. She wasn't sure if she could trust that feeling, or if it was just hope playing tricks on her heart. She got up slowly, brushing her hair back and looking at herself in the mirror. There were faint lines of worry on her forehead, the remnants of countless nights spent wondering if she was making the right choices. She had lived her life carefully, always thinking of the consequences, always preparing for the unexpected. And yet, there was a quiet longing inside her, a wish to take a chance, to let someone see her as she really was, without masks or pretenses. She decided to step outside for a walk. The streets were quiet but alive in their own small ways. The bakery down the corner opened its doors, sending out the smell of fresh bread and sweet pastries. Children ran past, laughing and calling each other's names. Old men sat on benches, talking softly in the morning sun. She walked slowly, observing everything, letting the world move around her while she moved at her own pace. She thought about him again. She wondered what he was doing this morning, whether he was thinking of her, or if it was just another ordinary day for him. A part of her worried that she had imagined the connection they had shared, that she had misread his patience for kindness. But deep down she knew there was something real there, something rare and quiet, something that could not be faked. Later in the day they met again at the same cafe. She arrived first, and this time she felt slightly more at ease. He walked in a few minutes later, smiling softly when he saw her. He did not hurry. He did not make her feel rushed, and that simple gesture of calmness made her feel safer than she had felt in years. "Good morning," she said almost shyly. "Good morning," he replied, his voice gentle. "I hope you slept well." "I did, mostly," she said, feeling the familiar knot in her stomach loosen slightly. "I've been thinking about yesterday." "Have you?" he asked, leaning back in his chair, his expression curious but patient. "And what did you think?" She paused, unsure how to put her feelings into words. I think I realize something," she said finally. "That I've spent a long time rushing or holding back. I never really let things happen naturally." He nodded, understanding flickering in his eyes. "It takes courage to notice that," he said. "Most people keep moving without ever realizing it." She looked down at her hands, feeling the warmth of the coffee cup she held. "I'm afraid," she admitted quietly. "Afraid that if I open up I'll get hurt. Afraid that if I don't I'll miss something important." He smiled softly, without judgment. "Fear is natural," he said, "but it doesn't have to control you. Sometimes the best way to move forward is slowly, to take small steps and trust yourself along the way." Her heart felt lighter. She realized that she had never been in a situation where someone encouraged her to take her time, where someone truly believed that patience could be stronger than pressure. She felt a small spark of hope, fragile but real, that maybe she could let go of some of her doubts and begin to trust, not blindly, but carefully, step by step. The conversation that followed was quiet and gentle, filled with small stories and personal reflections. She spoke about the moments in her life when she had felt most lost, and the times when she had felt the most alive. He listened, occasionally offering thoughtful responses, but never interrupting or pushing her forward. She began to notice the patterns of his speech, the calm pauses, the way he considered each word before he spoke, the way he treated her feelings as important and valid. Hours passed like minutes. Outside, the sun moved across the sky, shifting the light and casting shadows that danced across the floor. Inside, they shared a world of quiet understanding, a space where uncertainty did not feel threatening, and patience did not feel boring. At one point, she asked him about his life, curious about how he had learned to be so calm and patient. He shared stories of his childhood in a small community, where listening and observing were valued above speaking or acting without thought. He spoke of family, of traditions, and of the quiet strength that came from understanding the rhythm of life rather than trying to control it. She listened intently, fascinated by the way he described his world, not with arrogance or pride, but with humility and respect. She realized that part of what made her so anxious in the past was that she had been surrounded by people who rushed through life, who demanded immediate decisions and immediate answers. With him, she felt a new kind of freedom. The freedom to be uncertain, to pause, to breathe, and to simply exist in the moment without pressure. As the day drew to a close, they decided to take a walk outside. The streets were calm, the sky painted with shades of orange and pink. They moved side by side, not holding hands yet, but not keeping distance either. There was a quiet comfort in their shared presence, a sense that they could be together without needing to define everything immediately. She noticed the way he walked, steady, unhurried, aware of everything around him. She realized that his patience was not just about waiting. It was about understanding, about recognizing that people grow and change at their own pace. And in that moment, she felt a small shift inside herself. She began to believe that maybe she could be patient too, that maybe she could let go of some of her fears and allow herself to trust, not just him, but herself as well. They stopped at a small park, watching children play and birds fly overhead. She laughed softly at a playful dog chasing its owner, and he smiled at her laughter, a smile that carried no expectations, only acceptance. She felt a warmth spread through her chest, a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time. It was not love yet, not exactly, but it was something precious, hope, trust, and the beginning of understanding that connection could be gentle, slow, and still powerful. By the time they parted ways that evening, she felt a mixture of relief and excitement. relief that she had taken steps toward trust, and excitement that maybe this slow, careful journey could lead somewhere meaningful. She didn't know what the future held, but she felt ready to continue, one small step at a time, guided by patience, understanding, and the quiet strength of someone who believed the connection was more about presence than speed. As she walked home, she thought about the contrast between her past and this moment. She had spent so long doubting herself and others, always worried about making mistakes or being hurt. But now she realized there was a new possibility, a way to move forward without rushing, without fear, and without pressure. And she knew that as long as she had someone beside her who understood the value of patience, she could face her uncertainty with courage and hope. That night, lying in bed, she reflected on the day. She thought about his calm voice, the way he had listened without judgment, and the quiet power of simply being present. She realized that trust was not about certainty. It was about the willingness to let someone see your doubts, fears, and hopes without turning them into weaknesses. And for the first time in a long while, she felt that she could do that. She didn't fall asleep immediately. Instead, she replayed the day in her mind, savoring the small moments, the shared smiles, the comfortable silences, the gentle encouragement. And as she finally drifted into sleep, she felt a quiet determination growing inside her. She would continue this journey, slowly, carefully, and with openness. She would honor her own pace while learning to trust the presence of someone who understood that patience could be stronger than fear. The evening was calm, with the sky painted in shades of soft purple and pink. She walked slowly along the path leading to the small lake near the edge of town. The air was cool, carrying the scent of pine and wet grass from a recent rain. She had been nervous about meeting him tonight. Even after the last 2 days, a part of her still doubted herself, still wondered if she was ready to share her thoughts and feelings. But another part, the part that had started to feel hope, was eager to see him again. He was already there when she arrived, standing near the water's edge, looking out at the reflection of the sky and the calm lake. The way he stood, relaxed but alert, quiet but present, made her heart beat faster. She hesitated for a moment, unsure if she should speak first, unsure if she could trust the feelings that were beginning to grow inside her. Then he turned his head slightly, and his calm eyes met hers. He didn't rush forward or call out. He simply smiled, a smile that carried warmth, understanding, and a quiet reassurance. "Hello," she said softly, her voice just above the whisper of the wind. "Hello," he replied gently, his voice carrying the same calm assurance as always. "I was hoping you'd come." She nodded and took a few steps closer. They stood side by side, not speaking immediately, simply observing the water and the sky together. She noticed how peaceful it felt to be with him, how her thoughts slowed, how the knot of doubt inside her chest loosened just a little. For the first time in a long while, she felt that being present at a moment could be enough, that connection did not have to be forced or hurried. After a few minutes of silence, she finally spoke. "I'm not sure what I'm doing here," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly.
I mean, I want to understand, but I'm afraid.
Afraid that I'll mess things up, or that I'll get hurt. He turned his head to look at her, his expression calm and patient. "It's okay," he said softly. "There's no need to rush. We have time. Always remember, we have all night." She blinked, surprised by his words. They were simple, almost ordinary, but in that moment, they felt profound. "All night?" she asked, almost laughing at the strange reassurance of it. "Yes," he said with a gentle smile.
All night. Not literally, of course.
"But I mean, there's no pressure, no rush. We can take as much time as we need to understand each other, to listen, to share, and to grow. Patience is stronger than urgency. And sometimes the quiet moments teach us more than words ever could." Her heart fluttered at the thought. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. Not with such sincerity, not with such calm confidence. She realized how rare it was to meet someone who truly understood that connection needed space, that trust needed time, and that patience could create safety in a world full of pressure. She looked down at her hands, thinking about the last few days and how much she had learned already. She had felt nervous, doubtful, and uncertain. She had questioned herself constantly. But now, standing there with him, she felt a small but powerful shift. Maybe it was okay to let go of some of her fear, to allow herself to trust someone without demanding immediate certainty. They began to walk slowly along the path, their steps matching without needing to speak. The lake stretched out beside them, calm and serene, reflecting the colors of the sky. Small ripples moved across the water as a gentle breeze passed by, carrying with it the faint smell of flowers from the nearby meadow. She noticed how attentive he was to the world around them, the way he noticed a bird landing on a branch, the way he observed the subtle changes in the sky, the way he seemed to find peace in moments that others might overlook. She found herself opening up more than she expected. She spoke about the moments when she had felt most alone, the times when she had been misunderstood, and the fears that had held her back. His silence was never empty. It was full of attention, full of understanding. When he finally spoke, it was not to correct her or to rush her, but to reflect, to ask thoughtful questions, and to offer gentle encouragement.
I understand, he said at one point, his voice soft but steady.
And I think it's brave of you to share. Many people hide their feelings because they are afraid. But courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward despite it. She felt warmth spread through her chest. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. No one had ever given her permission to feel afraid and still move forward. And yet, here he was, showing her that patience and understanding could create a safe space, even for the most fragile of hearts. They stopped at a small wooden bench near the edge of the lake. The water shimmered under the fading sunlight, and the sky slowly darkened, revealing the first stars of the evening. She sat down, unsure if she should speak more, unsure if she should remain quiet. He sat beside her, close but not pressing, present but not demanding. "I don't know why I'm so nervous," she said finally, her voice barely above the whisper of the wind. "I feel like I should know what to say, what to do, but I don't." "You don't have to," he replied softly. "You only have to be here. That's enough. Sometimes, just being present, just sharing space, is more important than words. The rest will follow naturally." She looked at him, her uncertainty softening in the warmth of his gaze. "It feels strange," she admitted. "Strange to feel safe without trying so hard. That's the way it should feel," he said gently. "Safety isn't forced. Connection isn't forced. It grows slowly, quietly, and with care. And patience gives it room to grow." They sat together in silence, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. The gentle sounds of nature surrounded them. The rustle of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, the soft lapping of water against the shore. She realized that she had never experienced a moment like this before. A moment where fear and uncertainty could exist and yet not take over. A moment where trust could begin, simply because someone else understood the value of patience. "I think I understand now," she said finally, her voice soft but certain. "I understand why you said we have all night." It's not about time. It's about trust. And patience. And allowing things to grow naturally. He nodded, a small, warm smile playing on his lips. "Exactly. There is no need to rush anything. Life gives us moments like these to connect, to learn, to understand. And when we honor that, when we allow ourselves to be patient and present, we discover things about ourselves and others that we would have missed otherwise." For the first time in a long while, she felt a deep sense of peace. Her doubts did not disappear, but they felt manageable. She realized that she didn't have to have all the answers, didn't have to rush towards certainty. All she needed to do was be present, to listen, and to allow herself to experience connection at its own pace. They left the bench eventually, walking slowly back toward the small town. The night air was cool, carrying the scent of pine and flowers, and the stars above shone brightly, as if encouraging her to continue on this path of patience and understanding. She felt a quiet excitement, a gentle hope that the days ahead could be different, that she could learn to trust herself and others without fear. When they reached the edge of the town, He paused, turning to her with a calm and steady expression. "Tonight was good," he said softly. "Remember, it doesn't matter how long it takes. We have all night, and every moment we share matters." She nodded, a small smile forming on her lips. "I think I'm beginning to understand that," she said quietly. "And I want to keep learning." He nodded again, his calm presence reassuring her. "We'll learn together," he said. "Step by step, moment by moment, patience will guide us." As she walked home that night, she felt a gentle warmth inside her heart. The fear that had weighed her down for so long was still there, but it no longer controlled her. She realized that trust and connection were not about rushing or forcing things to happen. They were about patience, understanding, and allowing moments to unfold naturally. And for the first time, she felt ready to embrace that, to take small steps forward, and to discover what could grow from this quiet, gentle connection. The night was quiet, the stars shining, like tiny beacons of hope. She thought of him, of his calm voice, of the gentle encouragement he had offered, and of the phrase that would remain with her always. "We have all night." Those words were more than reassurance. They were a promise of patience, understanding, and the possibility of connection that could grow slowly but surely. And as she drifted to sleep that night, she felt a quiet determination. She would allow herself to be patient, to be present, and to trust in the slow unfolding of life. She did not know what the future held, but she knew one thing: with patience, understanding, and care, even uncertainty could become a path toward hope and connection. The following days felt different from anything she had experienced before. Mornings no longer arrived with the weight of worry pressing on her chest. Instead, there was a small excitement that hummed quietly in her heart, a feeling that perhaps life could be gentler, kinder, and slower than she had ever allowed herself to believe. She began to notice the little things: the way the sunlight turned gold on the rooftops, the way birds danced through the sky in the early hours, the soft murmur of the river as it wound its way through town. He had suggested meeting again, and they agreed to spend the afternoon together. She felt the familiar knot of uncertainty, but it was no longer as sharp as before. Instead, it had softened, replaced by a quiet curiosity about what they might share. She arrived at the small clearing near the river first, the grass still wet from the morning dew. She watched the water move gently, shimmering under the soft sunlight, and felt a calm settle over her. He appeared a few minutes later, his steps quiet on the soft earth. He smiled at her when he saw her, not in a way that demanded a smile back, but in a way that simply acknowledged her presence. She felt a warm comfort in that gesture, a reassurance that she was seen, and that her pace mattered. They began walking along the riverbank side by side in silence. For the first few moments, the silence felt almost fragile, as if it might break at any second. But gradually it became easy. It was not awkward. It was not heavy. It was a kind of silence that spoke volumes, the kind that allows two people to understand each other without words. She began to realize that silence could be as powerful as conversation, that shared presence could build trust faster than questions or explanations ever could. She noticed the way he observed the world, the gentle way he touched the bark of a tree, the careful way he stepped over stones in the water, the quiet way he admired a bird as it settled nearby. She realized that his patience was not just with her, but with life itself. He seemed to understand that rushing through moments, even small ones, caused them to lose meaning, and she began to see that patience, when shared, became a bridge between people, allowing them to meet in ways words often could not reach. Eventually, they reached a large flat rock by the river. He sat down first, inviting her to sit beside him. The water moved quietly, reflecting the sky above, and for a while, they simply watched. She could feel her breathing slow, her thoughts settle. The knot of fear and hesitation that had followed her for so long began to unwind, replaced by a calm she had rarely known.
"You don't have to speak," he said softly, breaking the silence without disturbing it.
"Just being here is enough." She nodded, grateful for the permission to exist without performing, without explaining, without worrying about making a mistake. "It's strange," she admitted. "I've spent so long feeling like I have to do something, say something, be someone else. But here, I feel like I can just be me. That's all anyone should ever need to be. he said gently. Being present, being honest with yourself, is more than enough. Trust grows in that space, without pressure or expectation. They sat together, letting the quiet moments stretch, letting the river's soft murmur and the distant calls of birds fill the air. She found herself reflecting on her past, on the times she had tried to rush trust, the moments she had hidden her feelings out of fear, the relationships that had faltered because patience was missing. And she realized that this was different. Here, she did not have to prove herself. Here, she could take her time, and that time itself was meaningful. After a while, he suggested they explore a small trail leading into the nearby woods. They walked slowly, sometimes side by side, sometimes with a small gap between them, allowing each other space. She noticed how he moved, aware of the environment, mindful of each step, and respectful of her pace. She felt safe, not because he promised safety, but because his patience and careful attention created a space where she could be herself without fear. Along the trail, they found a small clearing where sunlight filtered through the trees, casting dappled shadows on the ground. They paused there, and she noticed a small family of birds nesting nearby. She watched them, fascinated, and realized that she had not taken the time to notice such small wonders in years. He watched her, smiling softly, and she realized that he understood, without needing her to explain her wonder. He understood that small moments could carry enormous meaning. They sat down again, this time on a fallen log, and continued their quiet observation. She felt a growing sense of trust, not just in him, but in herself. She realized that she could allow herself to feel, to think, and to act at her own pace. She could trust that connection did not require immediate answers, and that patience, when given freely, created a bond stronger than any hurried words could. Hours passed. Though neither noticed, they shared small exchanges. Comments on the birds, the sunlight, the way the river curved gently around the trees. But nothing forced or hurried. She began to understand that trust was not built in grand gestures or dramatic confessions, but in small, consistent acts of presence. Each moment they spent together quietly observing, listening, and being aware was a brick in the foundation of something lasting. At one point, she spoke softly, almost as if testing the waters. "I never realized how much I needed this," she said, gesturing vaguely at the surrounding woods, the river, and the sky. "I never realized that silence could feel so full, so meaningful." He turned to her with a gentle smile. "It's the quiet moments that often matter most. Life is full of noise, of demands, of pressure. But trust, understanding, and connection grow in spaces where patience and presence are allowed to exist. That's why I said we have all night before. It's not about time. It's about giving moments space to breathe and allowing connection to happen naturally." She nodded slowly, feeling the truth of his words settle deep within her. For the first time, she felt that trust could exist without fear, that connection could be built without rushing, and that patience could be stronger than urgency. As the sun began to dip low on the horizon, painting the sky with gold and pink, they began walking back toward the town. The trail was quiet, the air filled with the soft sounds of nature. She noticed how he continued to move with gentle awareness, always aware of her pace, always considerate of her presence. She realized that patience was not passive. It was an active choice, a commitment to understanding and respect. When they reached the edge of the woods, he turned to her. "Today was good," he said softly. Sometimes the most meaningful connections grow in silence, in shared observation, in patience. We don't need to rush, because trust, once grown, will last. She smiled, feeling warmth and gratitude in her chest. "I understand now," she said. "I understand why patience is important, why silence can be powerful, and why taking small steps matters more than trying to force everything at once." He nodded gently. "Exactly. Life will always have uncertainty, but how we respond to it, how we honor it, makes all the difference. Trust yourself and allow yourself to experience connection at your own pace." She felt a quiet sense of growth, a soft confidence that she had not known before. Her doubts had not disappeared, but they no longer controlled her. Instead, she felt capable of moving forward with care, awareness, and openness. She realized that emotional growth was not about rushing towards certainty or demanding answers from the world, but about learning to be patient, to observe, to listen, and to trust both herself and the people who cared for her. That night, as she lay in bed, she thought about the day. She reflected on the quiet moments by the river, the gentle walk through the woods, the shared silences, and the small exchanges that had carried so much meaning. She felt grateful for his presence, for his patience, and for the way he had shown her that connection could be gentle, slow, and deeply meaningful. She closed her eyes with a feeling of calm determination. She would continue to grow, to trust, and to embrace the slow unfolding of life. She would honor the moments of silence, the small observations, and the gentle presence that had taught her that trust is built step by step, moment by moment. And she knew, deep in her heart, that this patience, this careful attention to each other, was the beginning of something rare and lasting. A bond rooted not in urgency, but in understanding, care, and respect. The morning was quiet, with sunlight spilling gently across the streets and trees. She woke with a feeling she hadn't felt in a long time. A mixture of calmness, hope, and gentle excitement. The days had passed with a slow rhythm, guided by patience, shared silences, and quiet understanding. She realized that she was no longer racing against herself or the world. She had learned, little by little, to move with care, to trust herself, and to appreciate the small moments that held deeper meaning. He had suggested they meet again today, and she found herself smiling at the thought. Not because she was sure of anything, but because she wanted to continue this journey, one careful step at a time. She dressed simply, taking her time with each motion, and walked to their meeting place, a quiet park near the edge of town. The air smelled fresh, carrying faint hints of flowers and the river nearby. She felt the familiar flutter of nerves in her chest, but it was no longer heavy. It was gentle, like the soft hum of possibility. He was already there when she arrived, sitting on a bench under the shade of a large oak tree. His posture was calm, relaxed, and welcoming. When he saw her, he gave a small nod and smile, the kind of smile that carried patience, understanding, and quiet reassurance. She realized once again how rare it was to meet someone who did not demand answers, who did not rush moments, and who simply offered presence as a gift. "Good morning," she said softly, a smile forming on her lips. "Good morning," he replied gently. "I'm glad you're here." They began walking slowly along the path that wound through the park. The sounds of the town were distant, replaced by birdsong, rustling leaves, and the occasional laugh of children playing further ahead. She noticed how calm she felt beside him. Her thoughts were no longer racing. Her fears were present, but they felt manageable. She realized that patience had taught her something important. That connection was not about certainty, but about allowing space for trust to grow. They reached a quiet pond, its surface still and reflective. Ducks glided across the water, leaving soft ripples behind. They paused, standing side by side, observing the gentle movement. She felt a sense of peace she had rarely known. For the first time, she realized that she could be fully present without needing to control everything around her. She could trust the pace of life and the pace of their connection. "I've been thinking," she said quietly after a while, "about how different this feels from anything I've experienced before. I've spent so long rushing, worrying, or holding back. But now, I feel like I can just be here. And it's enough." He nodded, his expression calm and thoughtful. "That's the beauty of patience. It allows us to meet ourselves and others honestly, without pressure or expectation. Connection grows naturally when we honor our own pace and the pace of those around us." She smiled, feeling warmth in her chest. She remembered the first day they had met, the nervous uncertainty she had carried, and the careful distance she had kept. And now, after days of quiet presence, gentle conversations, and shared experiences, she realized how far she had come. Trust had grown slowly, carefully, and yet firmly. They continued walking, sometimes speaking softly, sometimes simply observing the world around them. She noticed small details, the way sunlight filtered through the branches, the subtle sound of water trickling from a nearby fountain, the rhythm of his steps beside hers. Each moment carried meaning, each moment built understanding, and each moment deepened the quiet bond forming between them.
At one point, they stopped near a wooden bridge that arched over a small stream.
She leaned on the railing, watching the water ripple beneath her. "I never realized how much I needed moments like this," she said softly. "I've always been in such a rush, or so afraid to pause. But now, it feels like life has slowed down in the best way possible."
He looked at her with calm eyes, his smile gentle.
It's in the pauses that we often find clarity and strength. We can see ourselves, we can see others, and we can understand what really matters. And we can choose how to move forward, one step at a time. She nodded, feeling a wave of gratitude. She thought about the fear and uncertainty she had carried for so long, and how it had softened with patience and understanding. She realized that connection was not about forcing feelings or rushing to conclusions. It was about creating a space where trust, respect, and care could grow naturally. They sat together on the bridge, letting the soft sound of water fill the quiet spaces between words. She felt a sense of completion, not in the sense of certainty, but in the sense of acceptance. She accepted herself, her feelings, and the slow unfolding of life. She accepted that connection was a journey, not a destination, and that choosing the pace together mattered more than any hurried outcome. After a while, he spoke softly. "You've grown in such a short time," he said. "Not because I've taught you, but because you've allowed yourself to be present, to trust, and to embrace patience. That courage is rare and powerful." She felt a blush rise to her cheeks, both from gratitude and surprise. "I never thought I could feel this confident, or calm, or hopeful," she admitted. "I always thought I had to know everything to control everything, but now I feel like I can just be." "That's exactly it," he said, his voice gentle. "Being is stronger than rushing. Trusting is stronger than fear. And patience allows both to grow." The afternoon stretched slowly, each moment carrying the gentle rhythm of awareness and care. They walked back toward the town, stopping occasionally to watch children playing, to listen to birds, or to admire a tree in bloom. Each pause, each small observation strengthened the bond they had built over days of quiet presence and gentle patience. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they paused at the edge of a quiet field. She looked at him, feeling a mixture of gratitude, hope, and a soft certainty that had been absent before. "I think I understand now," she said softly. "I understand why rushing doesn't work. I understand why patience and presence matter. And I understand that connection grows when we allow it to naturally." He nodded, his calm smile reassuring.
Exactly. Life will always have uncertainty.
But choosing the pace together, honoring each other's feelings and allowing moments to unfold, that is what creates lasting bonds. Trust will grow, slowly, steadily, and beautifully. She felt a gentle warmth spread through her heart. She realized that she had learned something important, not just about connection with others, but about connection with herself. She had learned to trust, to observe, to pause, and to embrace patience as a powerful force. And she had learned that choosing the pace together could make even uncertainty feel safe and full of possibility. They stood together for a moment in the quiet field, watching the sun dip lower, feeling the soft breeze on their faces. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for him, for the patience he had shown, and for the lessons she had learned through quiet observation, shared experiences, and gentle guidance. Finally, as evening settled fully over the town, they began to walk back toward the small streets, their steps slow, careful, and in harmony. She felt a quiet confidence that had been missing before, a confidence rooted not in certainty but in understanding, trust, and the choice to move together at a pace that felt true to both of them. When they reached the edge of the town, he turned to her with a soft smile. "I'm glad we took the time," he said quietly. "Not just the time we spent together, but the time we allowed ourselves to grow, to trust, and to understand. That is the most important part." She smiled, feeling the truth of his words settle deep in her heart.
Me too, she said. I've learned that rushing doesn't create connection.
Patience does. And choosing the pace together, that makes all the difference. As she walked home that night, she felt a sense of peace she had not known before. The fear and uncertainty that had followed her for so long were no longer heavy burdens. They were reminders of growth, of lessons learned, and of the strength that patience and careful attention could create. She realized that life could be gentle, connection could be deep, and trust could grow steadily, moment by moment. She thought of the days behind her, the quiet cafes, the walks along the river, the evenings by the lake, the moments of silence in the woods, and she felt grateful for every small step that had led her to this place. Each moment, each pause, each patient presence had shaped her understanding of connection, trust, and hope. As she lay in bed that night, she reflected on everything that had happened. She realized that life was not about rushing to answers, about forcing feelings, or about demanding certainty. Life was about moving carefully, observing closely, listening deeply, and choosing the pace together with those who mattered. She felt a gentle hope, a quiet excitement, and a sense of readiness for the future. And in that quiet moment, she understood fully that connection, trust, and love were not about certainty. They were about patience, presence, and the careful unfolding of life. She closed her eyes with a feeling of calm, knowing that she could face uncertainty with courage, understanding, and the quiet strength of someone who had learned the value of choosing the pace together.